Okay, let's get going. Let's make sure that we're recording here. Yes, we are. To section part 2. Let's open this up here. Well, where are we? Here we are. Impossible things. There's no use trying, said Alice. One can't believe in possible things. I dare say you haven't had much practice, said the Queen. When I was your age, I always did it for half an hour a day. Why, sometimes I believed in as many as 6 impossible things before breakfast. This is from Alice in Wonderland. Impossible things. How many impossible things did you think of today? Remember, virtually everything that exists today was impossible up until the time the person invented it. Whether it be fire, or tires, or cars, or airplanes, or virtually everything was impossible. So if you're thinking about potential business opportunities, you're thinking about business ideas, products and services that you can create, and you think about what is possible, okay, you'll be limiting yourself. You will be limiting yourself. Okay? You don't know what's possible. And while it might not be possible this second, it could be possible tomorrow. People are inventing and doing new things all the time. All the time. One of the big things out there that's coming, and it's coming fast, is wireless electricity. It's electricity with no wires. That's coming. I'm a Star Trek fan, first generation, and the original. The next generation and the original. Cloaking. You know, the Romulans could cloak their warships. It's impossible to make things invisible. However, it's not. Scientists are making things invisible. Now, it might be something very small, and it might be just for a microsecond, but it will get bigger, and it'll get longer. So you don't know what's impossible. When you start thinking about what's possible, you limit yourself. You put yourself in that proverbial box. How many of you have heard that statement that you need to think outside the box? Well, what I say is, what box? If your ship doesn't come in, swim out to it. Okay. Being entrepreneurial, coming up with new potential business opportunities, requires you to be proactive. You need to be proactive. Okay. And I'm not talking about the skin cream. I'm talking about taking action. Opportunity is missed by most because it's dressed in overalls and looks like work. Thomas Edison, one of the most successful innovators of all time. One of the most successful inventors of all time. But he was an innovator. He only created things that had a market. He created applied inventions. Okay? But opportunity development takes work. You have to do something. Things don't come to you. You have to work at it. And that scares many people. But that's a good thing. The more people are scared, the more opportunity for you and I to come up with that idea. A wise man makes more opportunities than he finds. Important. You need to make your opportunities. Okay? Very few well-defined, exploitable business opportunities exist in the marketplace at any one time. And the reason is if they were ready to go, someone would exploit them. Okay? The best way to be in a position to take advantage of a potential business opportunity is for you to do the development work yourself. You create it. So then it's there when you're ready to exploit it. Opportunity always knocks, but are you listening? I said, are you listening? Hello? Are you listening? Part of this course is to try to get you to listen properly. Try to get you to tune in to the right channel. I'll say this in another lecture, but you have to view yourself kind of as a tuner, whether it be a radio tuner or a TV tuner. And this learning is developing your ability to tune in, because there are opportunities, potential business opportunities all around us. Okay? But you might miss them. Sometimes you think about, you're reading a paper and you see someone who just created some business and made a lot of money, and you say, you know what, I had that idea, and it's probably true. You probably did have that idea, okay, but it was just a little voice that whispered once or twice to you, and you weren't paying attention. You weren't really listening. Right? So the question is how to make that voice louder, and how to get you in a position where you're actually going to listen to the little voice. The opportunity frontier. How do you make explicit the implicit? Or how do you make the implicit explicit? It means the same thing. Lots of needs, wants, desires that potential people in the market, potential businesses have, are latent. They're under the surface. They're implicit. Okay? Which means that they're very difficult to explain. So the question is, how do you get them? How do you find out what they are? If people can't explain what the problem is, if they can't explain what their need is, how do you figure it out? How do you figure it out? Or do you have to figure it out? Is there another way to do it? Is there another way to do it? The answer is there is another way to do it. We'll talk about that as we go forward. Customers get 100% of the vote. That means I don't care if your mommy likes it, your grandmommy likes it. Ultimately, the only person that matters is the customer. Okay? You might be able, through discounts and bribes and all sorts of things, get people to buy things that they really don't need, that they really don't want in the short term. But in the medium term, long term, okay, it won't work. Customer gets 100% of the vote. Bend over backwards, but don't break your back. This is important. It's especially important for small and medium-sized business owners. Okay. How many people have heard the expression that the customer is always right? Customer is always right. Well, keep that in mind as we talk about things. You need to tailor your solution to the customer's needs. Now, what does that mean? When I use the term tailor, I mean that means customize. And a solution is a product or a service. So how do you customize your product for the customer's needs? Is another way of saying this. Okay, so Home Depot is a hardware store chain. Like in Sweden, we have, in Europe, Bauhaus, for example. It's the biggest home hardware store chain in the U.S. And they were coming for the first time in New York City. And so these guys were pretty smart. So what they did is they did an investigation. They did market research to find out what sort of department would people in New York want to have. And what they found is the people said, we want things that help us better live in an apartment of approximately 25 yards, square yards, which of course is a little bit smaller than 25 square meters. And why? Because a lot of people in New York who are going to Home Depot, live in small apartments, small lofts, and they want to have things that make their lives better. So Home Depot created this department in their store, and they opened up. And they had tremendous success. In fact, they had so much success that if you went to Home Depot in this Manhattan store, you couldn't actually get into the department. You had to take a number. You had to make an appointment just to get into this section of the store. It was that successful. Shrek. Shrek, the movie, the cartoon movie. So the question is, why are cartoon movies successful? A live-action movie, 1 out of 10 is a blockbuster, approximately. 1 out of 10 is a blockbuster. Most of them lose money. A couple of them break even, and 1 or 2 maybe do a little bit better than break even. But the one that's a blockbuster pays. This is live-action films. But if you think back to animated films, how many animated films fail? Not many. And the question is why? Why are animated films more successful? I know you're going to say, well, there are not that many movies for children. You're going to say that everybody likes animated films, so it can be market is bigger for small people and also adults and that sort of thing. And all of those things are true to a certain degree. But the real answer is, when they're making an animated film, they test every single part of that film. They do a scene and they run a test. They bring people in to screen it. And they say, what do you think? And then based upon the feedback they get, they make the adjustment. And of course, in an animated film, they can make any sort of adjustment. So by the time the film is done, and animated films take many, many years to produce, they have vetted this animation so that it is just how the customer, who they've decided in advance who that customer is, would want it. Now, you could argue that's watering it down. Yeah, it is watering it down. But for that particular market, it's matched perfectly for that particular market. The reason why so many animated films are successful. QVC, quality value customer. QVC, it's the largest home shopping network. We have them all over Europe. But what QVC did, and home shopping networks, a little bit different. They have a host, just like the TV morning show. They have a host and a guest, and the guest comes and tries to sell their particular product. And all during this time, they have callers calling in, asking questions about the product or service, some of which get on air, some of which go directly to sales. And so what did QVC do? Well, QVC, let me give you an example. So let's say Bill, our friend Bill, goes on to QVC, and Bill is from Sweden here, and has created a special sort of shampoo. So Bill, how are you doing this morning? Very fine. We hear that you have created a shampoo. Can you tell us a little bit about it? Yes, thank you very much. Our shampoo is scientifically proven to be better than competing shampoos because we use a special ingredient that we've been using for hundreds of years here in Sweden. Now, while he says that, the number of calls is going up. People are interested. They're asking, what sort of special ingredient is it? And the director, who's speaking directly to the host through an earpiece, says, ask him about the special ingredient. So can you tell us a little bit more, Bill, about this special ingredient? Well, I don't think my family would want to do that. It's been in the family for a very long time. And when he says that, the calls go up. People are going crazy. People really want to know what this special ingredient is. He goes, well, I'll tell you, we use reindeer urine. We have lots of reindeers up in North Lapland, and we use reindeer urine, and it works tremendously. At that time, calls are going crazy. People are starting to order. The point is what QVC does is it monitors its phones, and based upon real-time needs and information of its customers, it alters the service and the service by asking certain questions and modifying the approach. Really kind of interesting. Now, you should be thinking about this: is how do you tailor your solution to customers' need? And if you can do it on a real-time basis, what does that mean? WWE, the last one here, it used to be the Worldwide Wrestling Federation, but now it's the Worldwide Wrestling Entertainment. I'm sure you know what it is. This is professional wrestling. Professional wrestling. Well, professional wrestling is kind of an athletic play where you have a good guy and a bad guy, and there's a script and whatnot. They used to pretend that it's not, but it's very clear now that it is a fantasy. Well, let's say you have these good guy and bad guy here in the ring, and the good guy is supposed to win. So the good guy, it goes back and forth for a while, but ultimately the good guy gets the bad guy on the floor and starts to pin him. But what is happening is that the crowd, who is supposed to be on the side of the good guy, really is against the good guy. And it's clear that this crowd likes the bad guy better. So what happens is the people who are running the Worldwide Wrestling Entertainment are in the audience, and they sense the mood of the crowd, and then they speak to the referee through an earpiece. And so while the good guy was about to pin the bad guy, you got to have a count of three. So count of one, count of two, and just before the count of three, he lets the ref lets the breaks him up and allows the bad guy to get out of the hole and ultimately win. So what happens here is that on a real-time basis, they change the service, they tailor their service to provide exactly what the customer needs. Now think about this again. How great would it be for your product or service if you were able to tailor it in a real-time basis for your customer? Okay, so this is going to be the end of part two, and I'll get back to you very shortly.